welcome back, everybody. It is another Wednesday, another Calling All Heroes Academy upon us. I am joined by the wonderful Dex, and we're going to be covering
Hello.
Dreamlight Academy versus Fruit Salad. Fruit Salad already having one win under their belt, having gone against the Whelps last week, and now they can finally enter the scene in this top 8 bracket.
Yeah, they go against a really good opponent here tonight in Dreamlight Academy. Dreamlight, really well known for having teams in Calling All Heroes, the main one, and now they have the Academy team here that looks like, just based off the bracket, is the #1 overall seed. So not a big surprise that they come in here as probably one of the favorites. But this Fruit Salad team, they've been around a while. I can remember them being in several Calling All Heroes and Calling All Heroes Rising events as well. So this team kind of falling down that into those playing games is a little bit of a shock to me, but getting a strong result there really does give me hope that going into this series here, they're going to have something for this Dreamlight Academy team.
Yes, and also as a reminder, Fruit Salad coming back to Calling All Heroes as it has moved back to Start GG. Also, a big thing to know as well. So this is their first tournament, or their first Calling All Heroes back with everybody else and reinventing the wheel once more. They've been doing a little bit of roster changes, and same thing with Dreamlight Academy having been a little bit of a agglomeration, I guess, of different teams together and formulated just 2 weeks ago, Dex, and they're here to win it all and keep that #1 streak going.
Yeah, I mean, roster change is not necessarily a big surprise anymore in this day and age of Overwatch. Doesn't matter if it's OWCS, Face It, Calling Our Heroes, or hell, even some of the community leagues. Rosters will change pretty frequently here, so it's really good to see those teams make these changes, adapt on the fly, and still be able to be this good in some cases, much like what Dreamlight Academy has been able to do so far. But hey, let's set the stage here for this game night. Best of 5, so first to 3 here. It's going to be a really fun one. We have a good map pool. Atlas, the newest map, is a part of it. I could see that one actually being picked here. We did see a decent amount during promotion and relegation games for OWCS. Granted, though, this is a much different kind of level than OWCS, so you might still see a lot of these teams stick to the maps they truly know well.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're talking about Flashpoint. Atlas being so new and everyone's still screaming it to this day, still figuring out what works on it, the way that the other rounds besides the opening round work as well, and really just solidifying default routes to take. It is definitely still a learning curve, but it is absolutely able to be chosen for this Calling All Heroes Academy 102 season. Now, as we get into the rest of the thick of everything, I mean, it is gonna be. I think it's gonna be a little bit of a crazy match. These guys, both of which very high level teams, very much season as well, even with roster changes, even with some of them coming in for forming into 2 weeks and still playing out as best they possibly can. And we have our first map locked and loaded for these guys to start out on. It's gonna be Oasis coming at us, and why go anywhere else? Oasis has been, I feel like in the past couple of weeks across multiple tournaments, has been a really favorite starter as of late.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember OC talking a lot about. There's a reason you're seeing this map be picked a lot here, especially when Lijiang Tower is not in the map pool. It just the fundamentals of Overwatch. Everything kind of comes into play here on Oasis. Different kind of play styles, different kind of everything. What you want to do with your hero pools, whether it be DPS, tanks, or support lines here, it allows you to kind of hone those down. You really do see a good idea of what these teams want to play, but you also get to see the individual player really show off their skills a lot here. So Oasis, a really good map to start out on. Normally, you do see a lot of brawl. Could see dive come out in the form of Hazard. But remember, hero bans are a thing. We don't necessarily know what they are just yet. But Hazard, I feel like we see Hazard or Orisa banned a lot on this map if a tank is banned.
Yes, absolutely. Hazard coming back, being pretty strong on both, I would say, City Center and Gardens, have making a really big appearance there. Even sometimes we'll see him play on University, where you'll usually see a Ramattra or an Orisa matchup happening on that end there. But we are going over to our hero bans, as you mentioned earlier, and I wouldn't be surprised, again, if we saw the Orisa ban just like that, just as you predicted. Dreamlight Academy taking out the Orisa, and Fruit Salad responding with their own Juno ban.
Yeah, these are two pretty safe bans, in my opinion, for map 1. Doesn't matter what the map is, just Orisa being banned out map 1 doesn't necessarily, I think, hurt either team, just neither team necessarily wants to deal with them. And Juno, they kind of fall into the category where I would say with Kiriko on map 1, where if you see that ban come out, it's just a very safe ban. You're not necessarily banning out anything on the other side or focusing out a ban out on the other side. Juno is just a very, very safe ban here at the moment.
For sure, and she really does limit a couple of compositions to basically either a Kiri Lucio or even Pap Lucio. The Pap coming back into the fray as a pick to be had once again. But now let's go over to Dreamlight Academy's roster here. We have our starting lineup of Bandit. We have Super Bloom, Luki coming back. We have Starry Night, and of course, Lake as well. Dreamlight Academy, they're ready. Then look at the comp they kind of chose as their favorite. It's looking like we might see a Gibraltar if we have these guys playing an Ana Brig, Winston Dive favorite composition here.
I mean, what I would love to say like, hey, this is kind of what we would expect to see from them. I've been burned one too many times in the past with people picking Roadhog, Junkrat, and any other kind of hero that you would not necessarily expect to see. And then we talk a lot about never see it. But like you said, Watchpoint could be something we see from them. However, I mean, I'm assuming they're the #1 overall seed. If that's the case, they might not be picking a lot of maps here tonight, but you never know, because Fruit Salad on the other side might have something to say about that. Hostile and Lyran are your DPS line. Fuzzy Doe is your tank. Noctune and Mafia are your supports here. Mafia and Noctune, I believe I've seen them before in some other tournaments. They are a very, very good support players on their own right. Together, I have to imagine they are scary.
I know, yup, I know this team like the back of my hand. I'm very excited to see how Lyran and Noctune do come into the play, as they are the newest members of Fruit Salad. I will say there's a little note here. Fuzzy Doe will be unavailable. We're gonna have Zythrin come in for her there, so we're gonna be seeing a little bit of a ringer situation, but it is gonna be a-okay. Zythrin also has played with Fruit Salad in the past as their hit scan, as Lyran's role, so the synergy is definitely gonna still be there, and I'm really excited to see how they utilize that new hero pool, that new tank pool, with Zythrin filling in for Fuzzy Doe. But now, as we have now solidified our starting 5 lineups, I'm again excited to see what we're gonna go on with Oasis. As you mentioned earlier, it's a really good fundamentals map outside of Lijiang. If it's not in the map pool, you have different compositions that can absolutely be run on each 3 sub maps, and even more so, they can be played differently. You know, you can play dive on Oasis on University if you really wanted to, with Hazard coming back in. There's a lot of flexibility I feel like that Oasis does offer.
Yeah, and it looks like we will be starting off here on University as we follow one of the drones here in the lab. They're cute, I will say that. But right now, coming out of the gate, yeah, this is kind of what I would expect if you're not going to be playing something like a Hazard on this map. Ramattra is still in a very good spot at the moment in the meta. I feel like does a lot of damage, able to have the damage reduction when they go into Nemesis form. It's a very, very good strategy with them. You see dueling, you see the support lines basically mirror themselves. Honestly, it's good to see these two actually be, in my opinion, be back as something of the meta. Lucio Bap is just always fun to see, but then at the DPS line you start to see a slight difference. Dreamlight Academy, I would say, basically running what I would consider meta at the moment here for the most part. On the other side, Fruit Salad, Lyran gonna swap over to that Cassie. Hostile though on the Mei. Mei's been popping up here a little bit more recently. I like the pick, especially with that new with the new perk that she got as a major perk that allows you to freeze heroes. That could be something that absolutely melts anyone on the other side.
Especially Luki, that momentum as Ramattra is so important. Fruit Salad taking momentum, they have this really good control of this small room, and they can start rotating out towards Dreamlight Academy. But as you mentioned, Cerebral on Tracer, gonna be a little bit of a problem, already forcing an imperative cooldown from Hostile. And there goes Mafia, a complete victim of the Tracer, and everyone else from the side of Fruit Salad starts to slowly deteriorate and fall over like dominoes. This first objective will go by the way of Dreamlight Academy, with just a really good opening pick onto the Lucio.
Yeah, and the biggest thing was their Super Bloom. I mean, they clearly blinked into the backline there for Fruit Salad, but Fruit Salad never had anyone turn around to really focus on them. That just allowed Super Bloom to do whatever they wanted. So they just ended up finding so much value, and that led to that first team fight victory there for Dreamlight. Now, they're able to get set up here, and again, the only difference in the compositions is this Mei pick for Fruit Salad. You're really looking at them to be able to ice wall someone off, but you cannot allow Super Bloom to do what they did to you in the first fight here again on the second, as they're already looking to try to get in that back line.
Absolutely, the wall does come in. However, it kind of separates the front from the back line here, but there goes Lyran again, who was trying to keep this Tracer in check, but unfortunately cannot find that value. Zythrin, no worse for wear, going down by the way of starting out on this Baptiste. And mind you, Dex, in just a short amount of time, in about 37%, we've already built up our pulse bomb. We built up our everything. Oh, you're right. Actually, we built up everything.
every ultimate for Dreamlight built up. That's just how good they've been doing these team fights. Fruit Salad, they're struggling. They haven't been able to find a pick. They do have both their support ultimates. You could invest them both here, but this is a map where you could easily kite out an Amp Matrix and then easily kite out a beat by just using your own, and that's exactly what Noctune's going to use here early.
Okay, Nocturne comes in with the pulse bomb, the lamp to negate the pulse bomb, but then here comes a Deadeye in the back line. We commit with a sound barrier from Lake, which is fair if you're the defending team here to continue this fight, but I feel like it might have been a little bit of over investment utilizing both the window and the sound barrier.
And Deadeye and Pulse Bomb. I mean, they used 4 ultimates in that fight. Yeah, they handily won it. But for Fruit Salad, that's a team fight you're not necessarily mad about losing, considering you only invested the Amp Matrix. And look at what you have here. You have Beat, you have Annihilation, you have Deadeye. The Blizzard could probably be the most important thing you have here.
Good sound barrier in response to his Annihilation coming in, but they gotta get rid of Luki, and we absolutely do. Deadeye does get popped in by Lyran, but everyone kind of scurrying away from that, except for Super Bloom. Kind of called out a tiny bit there, and that should be the opening we need from Fruit Salad. Now, mind you, they did invest 4 ultimates, however, holding on to that Blizzard.
I mean, they have the Blizzard. That's going to be able to help them out here. And if you use it properly, it should be able to win you a team fight here and really even up the ult economy. I mean, both teams invested 4 ultimates into fights here. But Dreamlight, again, this DPS line has been able to get in the back lines and just side angles very easily. Super Bloom finally starting to be pressured out by Lyran.
Pulse on once again online for Super Bloom. The first one didn't really find too much, but the second one might find a whole lot more. And I mean, we're down Lyran, forced to use the Blizzard early on, walls off everyone else from supporting this tank, but Hostele's efforts were completely in vain. The Pulse on goes completely wide again, but the pressure is way too much coming from Dreamlight Academy, alongside coupled with this Deadeye. Poor Zyther, she cannot get out in time, and both Mafia and Hostile will be victims of the Cowboy Bandit getting in a 2K there, and overtime drops all the way down to 0.
I mean, you're seeing early here right now why Dreamlight is one of the better teams here in this tournament. I mean, they played a very sound point there. Everything was very by the book. Other than maybe the 4 ultimates being invested, that would maybe be the one overstep I saw from them there. But other than that, I mean, they played it incredibly well. Hostile's Blizzard, which I talked about being something that I thought would win Fruit Salad team fight, didn't. They put in a very awkward spot where unless you are on point, you're not going to get froze up by it. So Dreamlight Academy just kited it out. Didn't really have to deal with it there. Now, coming into this map, some swaps though. Hostile going over to the Genji, Lyran at least hovering over the Soj, and Zai going over to the Winston. Dreamlight though, other hand, Bandit on Freya, seeing them for the first time tonight. Super Bloom's probably gonna be sticking on that Tracer, but Luki going over to the D.Va here. So both teams going over to dive compositions here, even a little bit of a dive, full dive composition coming out from Dreamlight. As you see that support line swap up as well. Nocturne though, sticking up with the Kiriko here as Mafia also as well. Back onto that Lucio.
For sure, and mind you, Lake is on this Brigida. I've played with the Lake Brigida. He is absolutely spectacular at the hero, so I'm looking at Zythron to make sure you get out that whip shot and you gotta dive this backline ASAP, or you're gonna let Starknight get so much free value. And speaking of free value, Super Bloom once again being uncontested, harassing this backline of Nocturne, forces you to recall, and now comes in to help assist with the fight, because look at Zythron, no armor on that Winston. She's forcibly back up, use the bubbles defensively, and everyone else needs to help out our Winston, but she is still looking with all this pressure being put onto her by Luki with this D.Va. The matchup there really does go by the way of D.Va more often than not, and especially when you have Hostile being taken down by that super defensive backline. That's going to be a really good opening for Dreamlight to continue on with this engagement.
I mean, the point hasn't been capped just yet, and Fruit Salad's been doing a good job just contesting it for so long. Eventually, though, losing Zaya and losing Lai, they're going to really have to just fall back here, just give up the point, which is what they do. But Dreamlight Academy does not want to allow Fruit Salad to escape very easily there, as they find 4 of the 5 members. But Dreamlight Academy basically picking up right where they left off from that first point. I mean, look at Bandit, look at Super Bloom, look at Luki. Already have their ultimates basically ready to go. Starry Night not that far away from her Nano. Everyone on side of Fruit Salad, though, I'm not going to count Hostile because they just made the swap over to the Tracer. I mean, you're going to have both your support ultimates here very early, but do you try to invest them at the same time, or do you do what you did last point? You space them out between fights. It worked out for you in the end, but it didn't work out for you in the grand total of everything.
And everyone's trying their best to kind of keep Super in check. There goes a pulse him onto the wall, and bullet shot expended here as well, and it does take out Nocturne. Mafia going down a little bit, tiny bit early, by the way, of this D.Va in their face. Oh no, the remake almost clipping Zythron, but couldn't even get the mega pack in time for Bandit. Takes that life.
You know, Zai saw that warning symbol on their screen, turned around to see where it was, saw that it was in the doorway, like, oh, I can't be here. But Dreamlight Academy though, 3 ultimates invested in that fight. This is a team that so far is showing us they're not necessarily afraid to use ultimates at will. I mean, they've been dumping ultimates here. You don't normally see 3-4 ultimates used in team fights that often, but they've shown us it now twice. Fruit Salad, though, about to build up to all 5 of their ultimates, and I mean, they might have to start using them here, as this could be final fight.
Oh, here comes a really good defensive rally, gets negated by the pulse bomb from Hostile, who finally has made that stop and committed to that Tracer. Dark Knight goes down by the wayside just after their brethren, and a beautiful, clean slide headshot comes in from Lyran to definitely finish off this fight.
Remember, kids don't play in roads. As you see Luki playing in a road. Yep. And honestly, you want to know who? One thing I think that we didn't mention there. Nocturne, actually, I believe Suzu Mafia, who had a pulse bomb stuck onto them while they were beating. They would have Ajaxed. And if they did that there, they probably would not have won that fight, won the point. So great plays all around by Fruit Salad there. And hey, you're still holding on to 2 really good ultimates while Dreamlight. Not really holding on to any, but you have to worry about players like Bandit who are able to kill you at will.
Oh. And you got also about Starry Night. She is very accurate with these anti-nades, especially catching onto someone like Hostile, who's so mobile. And just like that, 40% has gone and done by the way of Fruit Salad, and they get a beautiful recapture in favor of Dreamlight Academy with now 2 imperative ultimates, almost 3.
And I mean, Dreamlight just gonna play very far up here right now. I mean, if you're Fruit Salad, you need to find someone to get there. Zai trying to swap over to the ball to get back to point. You have Mafia as well. Zai should be able to get there and touch in time, so we will have an overtime. You have 2 ultimates right now, though, if you're Fruit Salad. You really need to use them, but you already lost 1 right there with Lyran dying.
Oh, no overlap to be seen. Only Nocturne has the benefit of the continuing rush being in the back pocket, but will it happen? I mean, Zythorn does get a trade-off Bandit for Lyran, which is also very good for Fruit Salad. Now they gotta keep the momentum up. They gotta make sure we get rid of this backline. Luki does have the self-destruct for a second. He's on live. Mafia, unfortunately, couldn't escape by the skin of their teeth, and I mean, it's just going back and forth, trade-offs after trade-offs. And finally, Lyran comes in with the overclock, but with against a Nano Diva, there's no way but Dex. They flip it underneath their noses.
They flip it, but they're still in a very uphill fight right now. I mean, if you can find one of the support lines here for Dreamlight, it would help you out a lot. But you see Bandit coming back in, getting rid of Nocturne, who has been holding on to this Kitsune Rush now for a while. I mean, you're gonna need to have just staggering touches come out here right now for Fruit Salad.
You gotta get rid of Zythorn first, though. This ball has been exceedingly survivable for the past couple of quote-unquote fights, I would say, stagger fights we've been seeing. They do get to flip out, and now Bandit's job is to make sure Zythorn does not get a touch. Does a little bit of a, is not able to negate the touch, but the sleep into the elimination from Lake will definitely help that. But like you said, this next fight is gonna be stagger fight after stagger fight after stagger fight. Last turn now coming back on Kiriko, still has his continued rush, needs to expend it, goes for the pulse bomb, and there's a rally, mind you, in the backline from Lake. Everyone's still alive. This kitchen rush has not been finished until right now, and the fight is still ongoing, but there's a lot more purple in that kill feed than there is yellow, so it's gonna be Dreamlight Academy taking Oasis in a 2-0 fashion, but not without a fight.
Not without a fight. Fruit Salad definitely did look better in that second point, I will say that. Dreamlight Academy, though, I mean, they didn't necessarily make mistakes, just that Fruit Salad really was able to improve on how they played on that first point. I mean, it was a much better point. But the first point where Dreamlight was really dominant, you just kind of saw there. They were playing smart. They had their DPS line taking these angles, getting the back line. They weren't really able to do that this much on City Center. And that was a big difference there for Fruit Salad. The fact that the support line could really breathe. They could have a little bit of freedom, be able to be relaxed knowing that the Tracer wasn't going to be harassing them 24/7 and 365 right there. But I mean, a much improved round there for Fruit Salad, but still Dreamlight Academy coming out on top in a really good showing. I will say that still some things that you could improve on there. I mean, I talked about there, maybe the ultimate investment using 3 in one fight, 4 in another. You really don't want to end up doing that, because a lot of times those ultimates didn't necessarily find kills. You only seen them, maybe 1 or 2 picks came from those 7 ultimates.
Yeah, I had to agree with you. Both teams really do like to overinvest a couple of times, especially Dreamlight Academy, and thankfully they kind of had the fundamentals and mechanics to cover up their mistakes more often than not. But there were definitely some times where Fruit Salad found a crack in that wall, found a crack in the defense, and were able to flip the point multiple times over and over again, but they just simply weren't unable to position themselves or stage correctly for their own defense. It typically got broken down by their Tracer or by a bullet shot coming from Bandit. Is something that really opened up the fight over and over again, that allowed Dreamlight Academy to continuously recapture what was once theirs. And now as we think about our map 2, you know, I believe they have, I don't have the rules set in front of me, I've been you know, a bunch of different rule sets happening. They all get mumbled and jumbled in my head, but I think they have pick and choose of any map or mode.
That I don't know the rules either. So I mean,
I'll
I
grab it
should know.
right now.
I
But
feel
they
like as
have
a
the advantage
caster,
at least.
I should have known. Yeah.
You would,
I mean,
yeah, you would
if it
think.
is, yeah, you would think the casters would know something about the rules, but I'm sorry. But
So
I mean,
they do get
if it
map
is
and mode.
truly any map, any mode, this really does allow Fruit Salad to bring us to something where they think they are really dominant on, and if just going based off of what every team seems to do, that seems to be when I talk about that, Kings Row would normally be the map that we would end up going to. Duravasa, I feel like would be another one, but those are the maps you're just seeing so very often at the moment. Fruit Salad, I mean, you played a lot better in that second point, playing that dive composition. You were able to get in the backline. You were able to move around a little bit faster. Like I said, that kind of really stationary composition that they were playing on University with that brawl comp didn't really seem to go their way because they were playing very clumped up. When they were playing that dive, you saw them basically spread out and be able to find a little bit more value with that. So you would think like, okay, maybe we see a dive map come out here. Watchpoint Gibraltar could be an option, but remember, you talked about a little bit when we were talking about Dreamlight Academy. Watchpoint Gibraltar might not be the way to go, but hey, this is something we talked about before we went live here tonight. We're going to be going to the newest map in the game, Atlas, for our second map, and we don't our graphics are not updated just yet. So until then, Atlas is just going to be this gray square, but trust me, this Moroccan map is one of the most beautiful maps in the game, in my opinion. But Mott, me and you were talking about this before we went live. The 4 outer points of this map, very unique, very different, makes the map very fun. But the first point being such a outlier from the other 4 is really, really difficult. Because me and you were talking about, do we like this map or do we need more time? And we both kind of said, we just need more time with it. First point is very divisive because it's that low ground point and everyone kind of fights on the high ground catwalks, which makes it very interesting to watch. Because a lot of times, like I talked about with you, normally you see a tank rushing to the point and you have supports who are 2 walls away from them before they can get there and watch their own tank die. So it's going to be really interesting to see here what these 2 teams want to play, because I don't really know the composition or the main composition just yet, because you would think something maybe like rushy, maybe divey could work here, but then there's definitely map points where brawl is the more favorable one to go.
I have to agree with you. After we have seen a couple of different other leagues being played and other teams having gone to Atlas, it feels like a agglomeration of a different amount of comps that could be played there. We've seen Queen. I've seen Queen. I've seen Ram. I've seen Orisa be played. I've seen Sigma also have some value on Atlas, given he has a speed boost some sort.
Too many times.
We've seen a lot of decks. We've seen a lot of horrors in the past couple of weeks. But like you said, we don't really know what is good quite yet because it's still being scrimmed upon. And speaking of, we can start things off at least by selecting our hero bans. As a reminder, Orisa and Juno were banned previously. Dreamlight Academy has opted to ban. They banned my Haitian King. They banned Baptiste. I can't. And Fruit Salad said, I am done with Tracer.
I think these are 2 really smart bans. I mean, Fruit Salad really did prefer to play that Baptiste, and they found a decent amount of value with it. And I mean, Fruit Salad, this Tracer ban makes so much sense when you go back to how we saw Dreamlight Academy play the Tracer on the first point. Just in general, the fact that they're always finding ways to get in that backline, making the support's day a living nightmare here. So these are 2 very smart bans, and I like them a lot here.
I am on the Tracer ban belief since like the release of this patch. No one's a believer yet in my comp games, but they'll get their deck surely, right? They surely will get there. We start banning Tracer.
Okay. I was gonna say no one's believing in Tracer being good. Yeah, okay. I'm perfectly fine with Tracer bans. I'm perfectly fine.
No one in my comp games believes in it though. I will ban Tracer first, and then whatever they want to ban, and no one's with me. I'm like, no, y'all don't understand. And then guess what? We get cleaned up by Tracer every single time. Thanks time, not gonna happen. I wonder to see what Silverbone will be going over to instead. Looks like it's gonna be the Genji, which is completely fair. And Hostel gonna be mirroring that, of course. And now with Orisa being unbanned, she's open back in the field. Zythrin's like, all right, bet. Let's play the horse.
Hey, no. I'm so happy someone else actually calls Orisa a centaur, because Orisa is a centaur. I don't care. Brad, who called Orisa a centaur?
3, 2, 1.
Orisa out the gate here. I mean, it's not necessarily that big of a surprise to see what we're seeing here. Bandit sticking with Sode, Lyran sticking with the cast. That's the main thing I'm going to really be looking at here, besides two support lines being completely different. It's just how much mobility do you want? I think Dreamlight, they want to play a little bit in your face, especially with the full top. So that's how they want to go with this.
I agree. I really do love how prominent cast has become again, but then when you're standing in the middle of a Sojourn like Bandit's playing right now, that rail shot is no joke, and suddenly you have this momentum going way in the favor of Dreamlight Academy, where Fruit Salad, now that they're down a pretty important member, they have to back up, they have to see the point and give way to the first point of Atlas, and unfortunately this might be a little bit of a stagger onto Lyra. No! They get out of the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, barely. I mean, it's just a huge factor that both those supports for Fruit Salad were able to live. And one other thing we didn't touch on was the fact that Nocturne coming out on the Juno here. Again, that was a hero that Fruit Salad banned out map 1. I thought that was a very safe ban, but we're seeing both heroes that are banned out map 1 here be used by Fruit Salad here to start off map 2.
Which is very interesting to think about as well. They kind of knew the Orisa was going to be a favorite, at least, or previously, of Fuzzy Doe, excuse me, I know her actual name, Fuzzy Doe, but Zythorn also repping the character as well, but the pressure, once again, in this really far back line is Bandit. These long sidelines have been pretty much uncontested by anyone else. Lyran does get a last laugh onto Super Bloom, but not for very long, as the rest of the team pretty much fall by the wayside.
And here's the thing with this first point. There are ways to just to enter the point through the ground floor where the point is, but you're basically just putting yourself at such a disadvantage because of high ground. And whoever caps point first, the only way you're really gonna get through is if you straight up find a way to kill whoever's front line there. Not even gonna be able to get back to point. And now if you're Zai, you might honestly, yeah, you're just taking a reset here because there's no way you get out of this alive.
There's just no way. I mean, well Orisa is the tank of all time, and we're also engaging in this in between. Yes, they're investing the orbital ray. Luca gets really low there, but a rampage here is gonna be absolutely fat and massive. But no, it does in fact find 4, even though Zythorn tried her best to spin them away from the side of Fruit Salad. What an attempt! What an what a fight! What an in-between fight to have been made here.
I know this is a big thing going on in the community right now, especially at higher levels, talking about taking fights between points on Flashpoint, but I just think in that situation right there, Fruit Salad just needed to back up, or really just not invest the Orbital Ray. Because the Orbital Ray was such a huge ultimate here coming in this next engagement, especially with the rest of your team having all their ultimates. Granted, Dreamlight probably would have had all their ultimates as well, but now they have a beat and Kitsune Rush here, and they're already using the Kitsune Rush to just quickly engage in.
I mean, and there's a double blade happening from Super Bloom and Hostile, but unfortunately, by the side of Super Bloom, they're able to find way more value alongside Bandit's absolute kill potential over Fruit Salad's investment. So they're still looking really good as they have now gone over 40%.
And I mean, a lot of unfortunate stuff happened there for Fruit Salad. I mean, you had the rally be used there by Moth, but they immediately died via Blade. And now you see them just completely swap over to what Dreamlight Academy is playing on the support line. Again, they want to be a little bit faster, especially with Zythorn on this Orisa. Not the fastest tank, but you want them to get in. You want them to get in and out. And yeah, I was gonna say Terror Surge looks like to be online here.
What a Suzu from Starry Night, though. It completely negates the threat of that Terror Surge. Lyran comes in to make some space with his Deadeye, and it's gonna result in a cap here for Fruit Salad and the death of Super Bloom. Overclock invested, but no one really picking their heads for not too very long against Bandit, besides Nocturne. However, it's just Bandit left. It is definitely a fine trade to take if you are able to secure the point.
Yeah, just a good fight by Fruit Salad. I mean, they had to invest their couple ultimates, but using the Deadeye as just a zoning tool is perfect, especially with Zythorn, how they use their Terror Surge to pull everyone in. You got rid of Suzu from the other side. That allowed Lyran to find all the value that they truly got there from that Deadeye. It worked out perfectly for them, but now they're walking into a Dreamlight that has a Rampage, and you're not that far away from your own beat and Kitsune Rush for Fruit Salad, but you really need to get those online here, or hoping that Zythorn can be the only one that gets affected by this Rampage when it comes out.
I love how, oh no, what happened? I was gonna say, I love how aggressive Fruit Salad was playing and how they were forcing them off the point to keep it under their belt for a little bit longer, but then I just see 3 Carnage kills. What happened?
It's basically, we just got the equivalent of what you see in movies where you just hear a loud scream from off screen and like you're just wondering, oh, well, I guess Jim died. But right now, Dreamlight, yeah. It's just a horror movie thing. You just hear it from all. You watching him about to die, but then it swaps to another character on the other side of the house, and they're like, oh crap, that was Jesse. But right now, Dreamlight, I mean, they didn't use any ultimate there. I was talking about potentially seeing the Rampage come out there from Luki, but they still have that now. They have Kitsune, they have Beat, they have Blade. The only thing Fruit Salad's gonna have is both their support ultimates here, and Zythrin make the swap over here to a Junker Queen. Is it a little bit too late for them, though?
They had to get reverse 3-0 here on Atlas of all places. Again, new map, still gotta figure it out. Pretty much on the field here from both sides, but both now depleting Mafia. They're still holding on to Sambear, definitely in response to an upcoming Rampage from Luki, but will it happen? Not before this Dragon Blade. They have only 1 or 2 options to go for.
Wait,
There goes
got
Luki,
it.
however. That's massive. Fruitside walk in with this aggression. They're posturing onto the point, forcing everyone to back off it or die fast. We lost Starry Night. Bandit finds one to Mafia, but the fight is still ongoing and it's still being contested. But that is the end as we get Fruitside a flip for themselves.
I mean, talk about a fight that could kind of change the momentum of the map right there. For Fruit Salad, that might be the map. That might be the fight. Luki investing the Rampage and they're not really fighting anything and dying before they could truly get anything out of it is huge. Fruit Salad, though, you look at what they have. They're building up to 4 of their ultimates. Dreamlight's still going to have 3 ready to go in this engagement, but still, already with Suzu being invested here, I mean, that allows Fruit Salad to play a little bit aggressively here, and Hostile going to do it.
Hostile goes in with this Dragon Blade. We see the Sambear from Lake, so he keeps everyone pretty much alive during that engagement from Hostile, and we actually lose 2. In the meantime, we lost Nocturne and we lost Lyran. Mafia invested the Sambear as well, but unfortunately to no avail. We find a flip for Dreamlight Academy, and they're going to quickly lap in percentage that Fruit Salad was able to gather themselves.
And Fruit Salad, I mean, they're doing the right thing here. They're just backing out. They're not taking a fight that would not be favorable for them. I mean, you're still holding on to a Rampage and an Overclock. And that honestly might be able to really carry you through a fight here. Starry Night can only do so much with the Suzu, and Bandit, the Overclock might be used as a deterrent. But if you're Fruit Salad, you really need to get going here fast, because that percentage is counting up pretty quickly.
What a same great moment from Zythrin, and Luki comes in with the Rampage, and there goes Bandit. Overclock can be invested and shut down from Bandit. Lyran comes in with their own, and this is going to be an absolute treat from Fruit Salad. A 2K coming in for the Soldier player, and Fruit Salad find the cap anyway, but mind you, it is not the end. They have another 50% to go.
But, I mean, that's basically just one fight in Flashpoint. It truly is one fight. By the time that Dreamlight really engages back onto the point, it will be final fight territory. You do have Kitsune Rush ready here for Nocturne. Honestly, here, Mott, you probably should go fast and early with it. I think that's the right thing to do, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Oh, they're pushing them super far. This is why I love when they were playing a little bit earlier when they were on that first other Orisa fight we saw a bit ago, which ended in a 3K Carnage fight. But I love that Fruit Salad's going fast, forcing an awkward rotation from Dreamlight Academy, which forces Super Boom out of the fight. Luki coming after the fact, and just like that, they have now solidified at least a point in Flashpoint. It is definitely doable. It's possible for Fruit Salad.
Like I said, that fight where Luki used their Rampage and basically died before they could connect on anyone on the other side was a little bit of a momentum changer, and Fruit Salad took advantage of it here. And I mean, they did exactly everything right. They played aggressively. They forced Dreamlight into spots like you talked about. They forced them into rotates that was very awkward for them. Starry Night, though, has their own Kitsune Rush here ready to go. Lake and Luki not that far away from their own ultimates. The only thing that Fruit Salad's going to have here early on is going to be a Blade and a Beat here, and already Kitsune Rush out here from Starry Night.
Hostile super low deflector ready to use, and Luki finds a perfect opportunity to shut down the Shimada player. Now, pushing him onto the side of Gardens is Dreamlight Academy, and we actually leave Zythrin a little bit alone here as they're able to recover a tiny bit with that shot, with that Carnage. And Lyran, now being looked at by this Junker Queen, cannot slide out in time, cannot find the arms, the sweet arms of release. Rampage is again online for Luki, and ideally should be able to find the win on this objective before we inevitably go down. And yeah, slowly but surely we take it back over for Dreamlight Academy. They have now solidified this 3rd point. Can they keep it under their belt?
I mean, we're going to probably see another heavily ult investment fight coming up here, considering Fruit Salad's about to have 5 and Dreamlight has 3. Especially with how we saw the first map play by both these teams. We know they're not afraid to dump a lot of ultimates into a fight, but if you're Fruit Salad, if you dump 3-4 ultimates into it, you have to be coming out on top. If you lose it there, that might just be curtains for the map for you here. But hey, getting rid of Bandit early on is huge, and the Rampage is out, lands on the 3.
Oh, but what a Susan from Star Knight. She clears away from 3 people, and I mean, here comes the reversal. The reversal rampage from Luki finds 3 of their own. Mafia force uses sound barrier, and that's gonna be enough to help sustain this fight. Like, he just couldn't get the sound barrier out in time. I don't think, felt like they didn't really need it. He didn't need it in that moment because we had a Susan that cleansed everyone's effect. But it's gonna be Fruit Salad who somehow pull out a win here at just under 80%. They flip it, and they have to now push up.
But both those teams, though, for the first time, or no, actually, no, they've been doing a really good job with it this map compared to map 1. They didn't use a lot of ultimates. I mean, Fruit Salad used 2, Dreamlight only used that Rampage. Dreamlight now is going to have 4 of their own coming in this next engagement, and Fruit Salad still has 3 really good ones here in Lyra. And the last time they used that Overclock, found so much value with it, really won their team the team fight, and here it comes out early.
Here comes the Overclock, here comes the Dragon Blade as well from Super Bloom, and she is in there slicing and dicing, finding the eliminations needed to secure Dreamlight another quick fight win. And like you said, Dex, this is Flashpoint. At 70%, that might just be almost it. The fight that's going to come after this is going to be extremely staggered, extremely quick.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out who's going to be the touch here. You already see Fruit Salad just pressuring up. Honestly, Moth sitting there for the TP was not the right move. They probably need to be the person that's going for the touch, and it's going to cost them.
Unfortunate. I mean, I get needing to be that anchor for Kiriko to come back, but definitely needed Moth to be at the forefront to get that last final touch for that stagger fight to even get in there. Fruit Salad are now looking at the worst career. They're at this situation where they're 1 away from losing it and being exited out the bracket. This is not the malicious elimination. This is a single elim tournament. Once you lose, you're out of here, packing your bags and waiting for the next Calling Out Heroes tournament.
Yeah, but again, I think the thing I'm taking away from Fruit Salad is they did a lot like what they did on map 1. They got better as it went on, but they weren't able to truly ever get over the hump there. And I mean, it's just small little mistakes that we're seeing come out from Fruit Salad that Dreamlight's really taking advantage of here. I mean, we could talk about that last couple moments of the map there where it was the Lucio who was being the TP for the Kiriko. Like me and you both said, it probably should have been someone else. The Lucio was probably the one person you wanted to get to the point. Granted, probably would have lost them, but hey, you would have at least procced overtime. But still, they got a lot better as this map went on. You started to see it there. Their aggressive playstyle came out. It really did put Dreamlight Academy in spots where they didn't want to do. You talked about the awkward rotation they had to do to get back to that 3rd point. They ended up losing that fight, investing in a couple ultimates. It was a really, really good job for them there. Dreamlight, though, I mean, they're still playing a very sound series so far. I mean, we haven't seen them make a lot of swaps yet during games. They've really stuck with the 5 they came out of the gates with on every round, it seems.
Yeah, and really the only top we saw from Fruit Salad was just Zythrin having to mirror this Junker Queen. I feel like it was probably the best choice to make. It allowed them to win at least one of these rounds on Atlas. But again, it is just Dreamlight finding those mistakes and really running with them, taking the opportunity and being like, hey, they're overextended, or they're super split up, or hey, their queen you shout, oh, they don't have Suzu, go in with Blade. And they would just, they're on top of it over and over and over again. So once again, Fruit Salad having this opportunity to not only pick the map, but also the mode. I wonder where we're gonna go. Since we saw Control and Flashpoint, we only really have Push, Hybrid, and Control and Escort left here. Will we maybe see a push, maybe avoid a defense attack phase from either of the Escort or Hybrid maps? I'm not sure. Like you mentioned earlier, King's Row is always an option, and I would enjoy seeing a King.
Well, if we take a look down, it's Coliseum.
Looking down.
It's Coliseum. Coliseum's our map.
I love you, Echo. I love you, Echo.
We're heading to Coliseum. We're heading to Coliseum. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I saw that changed, and I was trying to like quietly say like, "Hey, the map's there. The map's there," but I didn't want to interrupt you. But Coliseum, we don't see this map. We don't see this map that often when it comes to push maps. A lot of teams like to bring us to Runasapi. They like to bring us to Esperanza. Coliseum is still a really good map in my opinion, especially if it is a map that you practice a lot. And if you're Fruit Salad, you're really hoping this is a map that you've mastered, and hoping that Dreamlight Academy, on the other hand, really hasn't played this one or scripted it much because they've been focusing in on the other push maps that you do see a decent amount here. But I mean, Brawl's still very good here. Dive is something I think is really good here. Winston does find a decent amount of value. Same thing with Diva. You could really see that come out right now if you're Fruit Salad. And I feel like that's kind of why you're bringing us to this map, just because you really don't want to bring us to something like Watchpoint.
Ooh, I wouldn't want to bring us to Watch Point either. Seeing the way that backline starting at and Lake can play on a Brig, can play Juno Brig, can play a plethora of the and Kiriko Lucio, they're very talented at all three, and to force a pretty much dive fundamental composition on or dive fundamental map like Gibraltar, I feel like Fruta wouldn't really have the same value, especially now that Tracer has been unbanned and Tracer's back online. Yeah, why not go to push? Why not for basically just use an escort situation with the bot and you can play dive that way, have different setups, have different flexibilities. Maybe dive's not working. Maybe we go back to Arisa. Maybe we go back to Darker Queen. Maybe we go back to something that's more comfortable for Zyphon, especially as she is the ringer today. She is filling in for Fuzzy Doe. So that comfortability definitely has to be there for someone so in the forefront of these fights.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think, who would you get rid of on the other side? And I'm really looking at the hit scans here. It doesn't matter which team is going to make one. I feel like we're going to get a hit scan ban from one of the teams. Do you get rid of the Cassidy? And I'm feeling if it's Cassidy, that's going to be a Dreamlight ban. If it's a Soj, it's going to be the Fruit Salad ban. If you want to get rid of a tank, like you said, Jungle Queen does find a lot of value here. Could see that just getting rid of almost immediately, thinking that maybe the Ramatra duel might be a little bit more in your favor. We did see it was in favor of Dreamlight on map 1 or point 1 on Oasis, but again, just different kind of map playstyle, map geometry. You could really see different Ramatra's playstyles come out here as well. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what these bans are when they are ready to go, because right now, if you're Fruit Salad, your entire tournament is on the line. The bans you're making from here on out have to be really, really important, and you can really no longer hold on to a ban that maybe you were hoping to use in a map 5 situation. You have to use it now.
Yeah, once you see the force of Dreamlight Academy and what they've been cooking and how mechanically, I would say very mechanically sound they are, you just need to rip the break. Whatever bandage you have rip off, rip it off. If it's going to be a Soldier ban, if it's going to be a reversal Orisa ban, I think they didn't ban Orisa. I think they still have an Orisa ban open if they really want to go for it. They want to ban Ram, also an option. They have to go for whatever is their ace up their sleeve, their everything, their coup de grace, if you will. They have to go now or never. And again, as we're going through the ban phase, they have all the time in the world to think about. Unfortunately, Tracer's back online, and I'm not surprised if we see Dreamlight Academy run the Tracer again. And mention, she's very strong right now. Having that buff to 6 damage per bullet really made a difference, didn't it, Dex?
I mean, it made a big difference just on Tracer being able to one-clip of people a little bit easier. But still, you're seeing Tracer be played a lot. Same thing with Genji. But now maybe Tracer get played a little bit more than the Genji, just depending on situation or situationals based on composition and map. This is a map, though, where I think Genji does find a decent amount of more value than Tracer, just because of the wall climb, being able to really get up to vantages that Tracer really can't get up to without having to run a long, long way away. But still, as we wait for the bans and for these two, for this potentially our final map, which not necessarily something I expected to be saying going into map 3 here, but I mean, you could look at the support line here as well. We talked about tank bans, we talked about DPS bans. Support bans, I feel like it's the least likely to come out. Kiriko would probably be the only one I would truly expect to see, unless one of these teams just really does not want to see Lucio, because I feel like that might be the only other support hero that we could see banned out.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe Kiriko might be the only valid support ban if they didn't, for some reason, want to go for a Soj or a Cassidy or a Ram ban of some sort. But then I was like, you know what? My boy Lucio sometimes just gets shafted for some reason. They just take him out back and ban him for no reason. But otherwise, you're right. You know, I feel like a support ban wouldn't be as impactful coming in from either of these teams. I feel like both of the backlines are well in their own right and really good at their respective supports, and also have the flexibility to flex the different backlines. And finally, our bans are in fact ready. Let's go over and see exactly what our teams have cooked here. Hello? Dex, you got it. We got Zarya and we got Freya.
We've seen Freya once this series. We haven't seen Zar at all. Yeah, I'll say this: Freya makes a lot of sense. A good hit scan. We talked about a hit scan hero being banned out here. I didn't mention Freya at all being banned out here because we only saw Freya very briefly on City Center of Oasis. Outside of that, it's been the Soj, it's been the Cassidy for Dreamlight Academy. I feel like if you're Fruit Salad, you really didn't want to ban out either one of those because those are heroes we've also seen your hit scan player play. Dreamlight Academy, though, banning out the Zarya is very, very interesting. Zarya does find a decent amount of value on this map. Zarya, I also think, is, I think, quietly one of the better tanks in the game at the moment, especially for trying to maybe shut down something like an Orisa on the other side. So that might lead me to believe that Dreamlight is potentially going to bring out the Centaur here.
And they might. You know, when I first saw the Zarya ban, and it did take me aback a tiny bit here, but just as you predicted, at least in the spawn rooms, we're seeing an Orisa versus Queen fight. Zythred having a lot of that value on during Queen just previously on Atlas, and Luki just now hovering the Orisa for the first time in these 3 maps here. Bandit and Lyran on opposite, we would think opposite DPS lines. We saw Lyran on Cass earlier, Bandit on Soj earlier. They've swapped that initially, and of course, Bloom, Hostile, Mafia, Nocturne, Lake, and Starry Night on a mirror match, I would say.
Yeah, basically. I mean, the only difference here, I mean, we talked about potentially seeing Soj come out from Dreamlight, but no, Bandit going back over to Cassie, which we saw a little bit on map 1. Looked really good for them, and this has basically been what Dreamlight Academy has been running at the support line the entire night, minus a few times, but it's been very good for them. Luki is the big question here, though. It's the first time they're playing the Orisa. Remember, Dreamlight banned the Orisa map 1, didn't even decide to touch it map 2, but I feel like it might not be long-lived if Zai is going to be able to just pressure out Bandit like that.
I love that approach from Zai as well. You know, just walking in on the most immobile character on Dreamlight Academy's team, that being Bandit on Cassidy. Despite everything, however, this objective has still pretty much just now started moving, and Dreamlight Academy backs out, goes for a little bit more safer high ground, whereas Fruit Salad are into pretty much set up. Oh no. Oh no, that's the beauty of that no fall-off damage poke from Orisa, and Bandit cleanly gets the rest of the team of Fruit Salad under their belt. Boom, there goes Dreamlight Academy walking forward easily.
Yeah, you can't allow an Orisa to snipe your Kiri. You really can't. I mean, look what Dreamlight's gonna do here. They're immediately gonna take so much space. This is what we've been seeing from them all night long. Just want to be that team that's always kind of taking space. And it's gonna be interesting to see what Luki does, especially, and what Bandit does well with Zai really wanting to get into their face on this Jungle Queen.
And speaking of, Zai is already walking down these stairs, and she's getting super low here. Does get healed back up everyone else. Lake Forest uses Sound Barrier in response to Bandit once again being the first victim of these engagements. Boom, no worse for wear. Forest to the deflect, and the continued rush a little bit short in tiny bit, but the Sound Barrier coming in from Mafia in response to, of course, this Terror Surge being used. I mean, everything under the sun is being used here, Dex, just for Dreamlight Academy to get a couple more percentage, a couple more meters on the objective here, as it has been stolen by the Fruits.
Yeah, again, Dreamlight going back to how they were playing map 1, where they were just using ultimate after ultimate, and yeah, I was gonna say, if Star Knight somehow escapes that, I would have a lot more questions. But Fruit Salad, they have more ultimates to go here, but you're already down your support line. You really cannot be in this fight.
Now they gotta get out, and unfortunately, despite them stealing the bot, they just need to leave. Cannot allow any of these staggers to come through, especially on your DPS line, who again have ultimates online.
And right now, Dreamlight, they're able to get that bot back. They're able to start getting it back to that barrier, able to get a little bit more meterage here now, but still, they're walking into 4 ultimates on the other side. A Deadeye and a Blade might be able to zone off one of the ultimates, but still, Zythern's Rampage is going to do a little bit... Oh
no. Zythern jumped down, seeing just the Orisa. Didn't peep that Bandit was right behind their tank there, and the amount of pressure that Cassie just gives is just insane. And just like that, I mean, they remember how they had a advantage? They don't, not anymore. Rampage was invested in, I'm sorry, it was invested in shutdown.
Yeah, that ult advantage, it's rough. But look, Zai now going over to mirror the Orisa, and hey, Moth able to find Luki out here. I mean, you get the forward spawn, you get that first checkpoint if you're Dreamlight, you're okay with losing this fight quickly as well.
And we also hold on to all of our ultimates, which ideally is even the better part of that fight. So it's gonna be even here. Sorry, now gonna be a little bit late on that continued rush, but that's a-okay because we have Blade, Deadeye, we have Overclock, this next fight's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a little bit of a colorful fight here, Dex. I think we might be seeing everything under the sun, knowing our two teams and how they use these fights. And it's gonna be the Continuity Rush coming in from Nocturne first, but Nocturne goes down. Hostile rips in with that Dragon Blade alongside the Terror Surge and the Sound Barrier from Lake. Mafia holds on to their own for a little bit too long, and Lake comes in with the aggression and gets the kill.
Well, it was a pretty colorful fight. I mean, we saw 5 ultimates come out there. 3 from the side of Dreamlight, 2 from the side of Fruit Salad. And honestly, the only reason we didn't see any more get invested is because, well, those members died before they could have the chance to use their ones here. But Dreamlight just getting the forward spawns back here and falling back, I like that play for them. Just fall back. You really don't have the ultimate advantage. You probably know that. Beat, though, ready here for Moth should really help Fruit Salad out. And Lyran, with this overclock, you need to be able to find some picks with it. Or, hell, just find one and find a decent amount of damage. Here comes the overclock, countering out the Kitsune Rush.
A little bit scary. Actually, everyone forced to back up away from the Continuity Rush and not really utilize it, and that gives Hostile the opportunity to get rid of Lukey. Bandit comes in with a very eager Deadeye, gets shut down, and then completely negated by Nocturne and company here. It's just Super Bloom left, and she finds her one and escapes as well. What a salt in the wound to see.
Bandits stared down the Deadeye down Zai there and said, yeah, you know what, I'll be able to kill the horse, and the horse just decided to kick it in the face. But Fruit Salad out, they're in a really good spot, and Lyran finding Super Bloom out. You have 2 ultimates here you could use. 1 ultimate here you could use.
One ultimate here, gonna be the Terror Surge coming from Zythrin. Will it be enough? Well, it forces the gold to be used from Lukey, but if you're a Risa, just cycle the rest of the core cooldowns and you're chilling. However, you can find that last minute pick onto Bandit and can't find a slide on the high ground. That's gonna be Fruit Salad continuing this push with this bot. Here comes Nocturne to save their Genji, get them out of there in time, but otherwise, there goes Lyran. A little bit too pushed up, I would say.
A little bit too far pushed up, but it's not necessarily going to hurt them, especially if you can get Zai and Hostile out. You can go for a really quick re-engage here. You still have 4 minutes on the time bank, so you're not necessarily in a bad spot, but Starry Night and Dreamlight, they want to go fast. Nocturne, though, also using their own.
For sure. Sunbird is still online for Mafia, but instead we're going to be seeing Nocturne's Continuity Rush be expended here, and despite everything, still Fruit Salad using their ultimates, and they're going to be the ones going down in this engagement so quickly as well.
Yeah, Dreamlight's been able to take a lot of these fights pretty early on when they normally win fights here. Look, 3 ultimates, almost 4 ready to go for them here. This is a point where you could really see them actually get some meters on this cart or on this barrier after the checkpoint.
Oh no, there goes Lyran, there goes Mafia, both of them down from the counter room. Even then, staying alive in the face of danger, coupled by the rest of her team. However, they turn this corner and start going uphill, and Hostile will not be there to watch that happen. They have to regroup basically at their spawn point.
Lyran was considering the Reaper. I would not have hated it, but I don't necessarily know if you would have had the time to really get it to work. 4 ultimates ready here for Dreamlight. They didn't use a single ultimate that last team fight, so they're in a really good spot right now. Hostile, though, Blade is out.
Ooh, Blade out, and you have a Sound Barrier with it. I mean, Hostile, they take that aggression, they take that advantage, and they're gonna run with it, running right into Starry Night and Bandit. And I mean, why not Lukey as well? Everyone goes down, but mind you, Dex, this is a 114 meter versus a 48 meters? 43 meters?
43,
I have glasses on?
It's 47.
All right, 47 meters.
One of us was going to be able to guess it eventually. But it's 47. Hey, but a good thing, Fruit Salad there, is Lukey did use their Terror Surge in that engagement. Granted, no one else on Dreamlight used an ultimate, so you're still walking to 3 ultimates on the other side. And now you're down Hostile. Not the best start.
Not the best start, and even then you couldn't even find the reversal onto Super Bloom, who is also very low herself. There goes Bandit taking care of Nocturne, shutting down the use of that Continuity Rush from ever being used in this fight, and everyone else starts to simply trickle down slowly. Again, by the way of Bandit and Super Bloom, Team Academy, as we have now neared down this 2-minute timer, they're holding all these ultimates, I feel like, for a last engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know if they're holding them for a last second or last push here, but they've just been holding on to them, waiting for an opportune time to use them. Dreamlight, they know when the fight's over here. They know they don't necessarily need to push the barrier anymore. Here, they already have a big lead. The ultimates are just used as deterrents at this point, like the Deadeye.
Did I and a reversal Terror Surge coming in from Zythrin, but everyone kind of forgets there's a Deadeye on the field here. Bandit finds 2, and there is a team kill. Just 10 more meters for Dreamlight Academy to take this objective under their belt. 2-1, and ladies and gentlemen, there is no touch coming in from Fruit Salad. Dreamlight Academy take this series 3-0 and move on in Calling All Heroes Academy 102.
Man, it's so close to getting the ace in that final team fight. I believe it was Lake who took the final kill away. A good series overall for Dreamlight Academy. I felt like Fruit Salad did give them some challenges here and there, but they were easily able to overcome them. Fruit Salad, though, again, every map, they seemed to get better as it went on. They just weren't ever able to get over the hump. Dreamlight Academy, though, they're your number 1 seed for a reason. They looked it here as well tonight. Everything seemed smooth for them tonight. No glaring mistakes. Maybe then an overinvestment of ults here or there. But outside of that, the team looked very, very well-rounded. They seemed like they knew how everyone played. They had great communication throughout. So a really, really good win here for Dreamlight Academy as they will be moving on to the semifinals.
Absolutely. Just waiting on the rest of our brethren, because we're all friends here. So the rest of our brethren to finish up their matches, see exactly who they're going up against for next week. That will be the winner of Sakura Mochi or Celestrina for Dreamlight Academy to go into. But like I said, Fruit Salad are bowing out in a respectable 7th place finish here for that top 8 bracket of Academy 102. Dex, thank you so much for casting with me. Thank you so much for covering Calling All Heroes. I love Rising. Rising, I love you. You love me. And you love us. Echo, thank you for production, as always. Thank you to Casey for observing. And it was just, I had a lot of fun. It was even though it was a 3-0, it did feel clean. It felt close. There was moments where there was generally times where Fruit Salad really could have taken this to game 4, maybe even game 5. But like you said, Dreamlight just had those fundamentals, those fundies, those mechanics. Their synergy was really well incorporated as well and shown here. I have to say, there's a reason why they are the.
Yeah, and I mean, like you kind of mentioned that Fruit Salad, this wasn't a 3-0 where they just got rolled over. They really did get better as every map went on. But like I kind of said, they're never able to truly get over the hump. They made the right swaps in maps 2 and maps 3 to make it a little bit of a better fight for them. But it just always seemed like Dreamlight knew what they needed to do there. A very well-rounded team. Going to be a difficult matchup for whoever goes up against them in that semifinals. But Mott, it was a great time here, man. I'll let you sign us off.
No, for sure. And everyone else, thank you for tuning in, cheering on our fellow Fruits. And now we get to see Dreamlight Academy move on in this absolutely insane bracket. I mean, there's some hard hitters on the other side of the bracket that will be grand finalists at some point, but we'll cover that in next coming weeks. In the meantime, Dex, is that your cat? Is that your cat? Oh, yes! We get the Dex cat for our sign off. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, Dex's cat, and goodbye to my production people. It was a wonderful time, and we'll see you guys for next week's match on Risingcord.